Hey everybody, it's Jeff. This will be part 3 of the Copper State Models Canadian armored machine gun carrier. Okay, in this part we'll get the main body all made up. Okay, I'll show you what I did, and I've already got the chassis. I did a few more parts on it, and I've got some wheels here, some steps, got some machine guns, just a few bits and pieces that I did not attach because I want to paint them separate. Okay, so let's go down the bench and we'll start getting this. I'll show you what I did to get this part put together. Okay? Be right back. Okay, this is going to be step 19. Consists of 4 parts: A26, A17, A15, and A25. A17 was a little bit warped. Not bad. I think it was partially due to the shape. You know, with that big step in it, it tended to kind of be bowed just a little bit. But it wasn't bad. It wasn't hard to get it to go into shape. I did knock A15 loose when I was putting in A25. I guess I just didn't put quite enough glue on it, or I didn't wait quite long enough. So let's go ahead and re-glue it. It's not a big deal. It's easier to pull them off now and add a little more glue if you're not sure, rather than risk it falling off at some point in the future. Let's take that off and drop a little more glue in there. That should secure it just fine. All right. Give it just a second there. Make sure everything's nice and straight. Okay, A26 goes up through the floor from the back, or from the bottom. So it's just a matter of fishing it up through there. Not difficult. There's a very nice wide locator for the pedals. It's not hard to fit them just exactly where they need to go. Okay, and that's gonna complete step 19. Okay, let's move on to step 20. Okay, in step 20 we're going to install a frame that'll support the sides of the machine gun carrier, A19 and A18. The tabs go all the way through, so it's easy to put the parts in and just turn it over and glue from the back. That way you don't mar the floor at all. Something else that I did notice, there are 2 slots just forward of that in the floor. I've marked them in the instructions in red. I have no idea why those parts are, or why those slots are there. There's nothing that fits them. They don't really serve any purpose, and I didn't really particularly like the way they look, so I went ahead and took some cardstock and just filled them in. I'm not sure just what the reason for them was, if that's supposed to be like a trap door or something so they can go underneath the vehicle, but I went ahead and filled them in. You'll see it in a future clip here. But that gluing those 2 in, making sure they're nice and straight, and that'll finish step 20. Step 21, part A14. It's a frame that'll support the rear machine gun. It goes over the last two parts that we fit and glues into place. And it is keyed. It all fits really well. Just a matter of lining the tabs up correctly and making sure everything's nice and straight and dropping it into place. That'll complete step 21. Step 22 consists of parts C15, there's 4 of them, and A24. The instructions for the kit does not list the rear machine gun mount, which I've marked on the instructions as A24. It's in blue and it does need to be attached at this point, but they forgot to put a part number on it. So that went in very well. And then the side supports are a little fiddly. They go in well though. The side supports they look like they can fit either direction, but if you look, the parts that go into the lower end have a wide slot, and the ones that go in the top really have just kind of a little square. But make sure that the machine gun mount is straight all directions. You don't want it leaning one side or the other. Okay, and there's the little braces, armor side supports, and there are little squares in those boxes that we just attached. It's a simple matter of just gluing those in. I know I say simple matter a lot, but it really is simple. It just takes a little bit of time. Little nudging. You got to make sure that these go in straight because they're going to attach to the side armor in a little while. And if you have them in there crooked, things aren't going to line up. Just a matter of doing, here I go again, just a matter of doing the same thing 4 times, getting them adjusted just like they need to be, and that'll complete step 22. I was using the regular extra thin to tack the parts into place, and then I would come back with some quick setting just to give it, a little more and to really get them locked in good. So just a drop of quick setting and they'll stick. At least they're supposed to stick. There we go. Then you can come back with a little bit of the quick setting just to reinforce it. Just make sure they're all in their square. It'll all fit just fine. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to step 23. In step 23, they want you to attach the floor to the chassis. I didn't really want to do that because I want to paint them separately, but I did test fit them to make sure everything fit like it was supposed to. And it is a little bit of a challenge to get all the points lined up just exactly where they need to be. Of course, I'm off camera, so you can't see it, but it does fit. Just takes a little bit of work. Okay, so that's what she should look like. You can see those two little slots. I still haven't put the card in there, but I will soon. I never could understand why those slots were there. Okay, let's go on to 24. In step 24, the instructions want you to install the steering wheel, A28, and the brake levers, B14. Now, I don't want to install the steering wheel because that'll make it difficult for me to put the body on later. So that I'll save and I'll paint separately, and then we'll attach that at the very end. The brake levers are keyed. They attach to the frame. Okay, it's not hard to get them on there straight. In order to get the body off and on, I had to cut that little small piece of plastic that I have marked in red on the instructions. Okay, or it would have locked it on. It's not going to be noticeable when it's all done, and that way I can get the body off and paint it and then put it back on with no problems. Have plenty of clearance. I'm just checking the fit of the body, deciding on what to do with the, if I need to do any adjustments on anything as far as the brake levers go. And it becomes pretty obvious that I'm going to have to trim that little part out to allow me to get the body off to paint it. So I'm just doing some checking here. It's always good to check what you're doing, make sure that everything fits like you want it. After trimming the part out that is marked in red, I took a file, just did a quick little bit of cleanup, and everything fit really good. Now I can easily take the body off and on for painting. Didn't take much. It's going to make it a whole lot easier later on. Okay, that's going to complete step 24. Step 25. We have the starboard body armor to install. It's kind of funny that the instructions actually refer to it as starboard. Just gives you a little hint of the way they thought about tanks at the time and armored vehicles as being part of the Navy. So they use nautical terms a lot. Everything fits very well. Those little braces need to go in some slots. Just make sure everything is aligned well. And just a touch of glue. Really didn't have any fit issues at all. Now the instructions call for installing part A21 at this point, which is a little horn. I'm not sure if it's actually a horn or a bell. But anyway, I'm going to paint that separately and attach it afterwards. So that one will be going in the box with the parts I'm going to paint a brass color. Okay, that should do it for step 25. The instructions just show you some of the spots that you need to watch out for. Make sure you get glue in the right places. Okay, so we'll move on to 26. In part 26, we have to assemble the fuel tank, which sits just right beside the driver. It'll be parts A23 and 2 parts C10. And there's also another box mounted there, B8, and they'll all go on the port side of the vehicle. Now I'm going to have to do some seam work on this. I didn't really like the way it came together. So, but I will be painting it separately anyway. Looking at the Canadian Armoured Museum videos of this vehicle, the gas tank appeared to be kind of a brownish color. I don't know if that was just due to rust or if it was actually painted that way. But I'm not going to paint it the green as everything else. I'll probably paint it a different color just so that it stands out a little bit. Same thing with the little B8. It's just a matter of putting those little, if I can hang on to them, putting those little frames on the side and gluing them on. But there is some seam there. You'll see it in a second that I'm not real happy with. The ends are supposed to have kind of a depression to them, but the sides where those glue on, you can see it leaves a pretty good line there, and it's not supposed to be like that. So I'll put some Mr. Surfacer on there and smooth those out a little bit before I do any painting. All right, moving on. Part 27 is installing the port side of the vehicle. It's the same as the opposite side, as the starboard side. I test fit first, make sure everything lines up like it's supposed to, and then put some glue on it. There's a real flat spot right there that is a real good gluing point. Sits right underneath the corner of the frame. Gives you a real good place to get a good strong joint. And then it's just getting all the little connecting points all lined up. Some of them were a little bit finicky, but it didn't take much to get them all just where they needed to be. Glue it along the bottom edge, and then glue the connecting points. The instructions actually show you some places to watch out for with the red circles. Points that maybe you wouldn't think of, that make sure you put glue in there. Okay, so that's all there is to step 27. Let's go ahead and move on. Step 28 is the rear tailgate. I did not install this because it will glue to the body and to the chassis underneath. So I wanted to leave it loose for now. I'll paint it and I'll attach it later. Okay. Step 29. There's some grab handles that I'll go ahead and install on part B6. That way they can all be painted at the same time. There are apparently a couple of variations of the handles. The instructions say to check page 25 to make sure that you got part C13 in the correct location for whichever variant you're building. Which I'm going to just go ahead and put them in this position that the instructions show. I think they'll be fine. But they are tiny. One of the C18s was deformed pretty badly. I think it was just due to packaging. It was really curled. So I had to do a little bit of work to get it to lay down. I very gently, uncurled it, I guess you'd say, and got it to look straight. So a little gentle work with the tweezers, and it all worked out fine. At this point I just remembered a little trick that a friend of mine, Peter at Oz Scale Modeling, does, and that's using white tack or blue tack, either one, on your bench to keep all your parts together. So when you go to pick them up with your tweezers, it's real easy. Yeah, I've been meaning to try it, but when I was doing this, it's like, oh yeah, I should be giving that a go. So I think in the next step I do switch over to start doing that. I've got white tack right there on the bench, but it didn't occur to me when I was doing this that's an easy way to hold your parts. So those are the C13s on, and the C18s are the same way. There are some small locating holes in the part, and they go on real easy. Here's part C18 going on. They fit fine. Just get them into place, put just a very tiny drop of glue on them, and they're fine. There is a hole there, so it makes it real easy to locate them. Just make sure that they're nice and straight and square. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to step 30. In step 30, we're going to be making up the main light in the center of the front of the vehicle. It's an acetylene light. They didn't have electric lights on this vehicle. The main part of the light's going to be brass, so I'll assemble it and then I'll keep it separate for painting. It's just 2 parts, A24 and A20, and then D1 will be a lens. You can see there I'm using that little white tack trick. Works really well for keeping your parts exactly where they go. I'll leave a link for Peter's channel in the description. He's an amazing modeler. He's the one that showed me this little trick. Okay, so go check him out. I'm sure there'll be something on there you like. Okay, moving on. Step 31 is making up the smaller auxiliary lights that go on the front of the vehicle. There'll be one on each side. C8 and C9 make up the light, and then D2 will be a lens that we'll add later. These will be brass also, so I will put them aside and paint them when I do all the brass parts. I'm using Peter's little trick again with the blue tack. Getting everything nice and straight. I probably could have put some glue on the part first and then attached it, but it worked out okay. We've got to make up 2 of these. The parts are so small they want to come off with the brush, but that all worked out. Just making sure that they're centered like they're supposed to be. Okay, the other one's exactly the same. Step 32 is installing the lights, which we're not going to do, but as you can see there are locating marks. And then we'll move on to step 33. Step 33 is telling you to install the front armor plate, which I don't want to do quite yet. So, but it's just showing you the locating pins, exactly where the part will fit to the 2 sides. Step 34 is installing the lower armor plate A30 on the front. This was hinged on the vehicle when it was just running normal down the road, or sitting when it wasn't actually in battle. They would have that folded up for cooling purposes. When they were going into a situation where they thought the radiator needed more protection, then they would fold it down. So I'm going to go ahead and do mine with the flap up, so you can see the radiator and a little bit of detail in there. Just glue a little bit, put a little glue on the hinges, and that part will be ready to go. I'm not going to glue the front armor plate on yet. I just want to make sure that I can get in to paint everything, and then I'll attach it later. Okay, so that's about all there is to step 34. Step 35 is a small armor plate, part A31, that will be added underneath the vehicle. It's supposed to be a protection for the rear differential, but I can't put it on yet, so it will get painted and then we will add it at the end. Okay. Step 36 is to install 2 steps, one on each side of the vehicle, part number C14. I can't put these on yet until I get the body assembled. So I will paint them separately, and then they will be installed at the very end of the build. Step 37 is the wheels, which of course we will paint and install at the end. Also, we have 2 grab rails, part C19, that are optional. I went ahead and installed them because they already have holes for them to attach to, and I'd have to fill the holes if I didn't use them. But they look good. The detail's nice. So that will be, those will be installed. Here I am using Peter's trick again. Of course you can't see it because the instructions are in the way. Sorry about that. There you can see it a little bit. There's 2 holes for them to go into, and once you get them in the right spot, they drop in real nice. Okay, and there'll be another one just the same here on the other side. Step 38, it's time to start assembling some machine guns. These are Vickers machine guns. First thing I wanted to do was drill the barrels out because they're not drilled. So pick an appropriate size drill bit and take your time. It adds quite a bit of detail. Once the barrel is drilled, add the handle at the rear, which includes the paddle trigger. Just get them all lined up straight. Not anything terribly difficult. And then we'll build the ammo box. The ammo box consists of 3 parts, C6, C7, and C11. The main part of the box is in 2 halves that have to be glued together. Now this left a pretty bad looking seam, which would not be on the original box. So I'll glue it together now, but before I do anything as far as painting, I'm going to have to do a little work on that seam. And this has 2 machine guns and 2 ammo boxes and so forth. So what I did here, I did 2 times. The parts seem to line up real well. They're very detailed, but the ends have a terrible seam, which would have just been smooth sheet metal. So, little Mr. Surfacer to the rescue, and we'll fix those up. I'm not going to attach C11 yet till I get the seam taken care of. So that should finish step 38. In step 39, we've got some accessories for the machine gun. There is a water can, part C5, and we need to attach the handle, C12. There's also a pipe, C17, that will go from the machine gun down to the tank. It says in the instructions that they were metal, which I'm not sure just how that worked, because in order to swing the machine gun, you'd have to move the can every time, and that doesn't seem feasible, but I don't really know. If anybody has any idea just exactly how this works, let me know. Also, part C20 is supposed to be the end of the ammo belt sticking through the machine gun, and it's not shaped correctly. It shows it as a curved part, whereas the actual part is flat. So I'm not sure just how I'm going to do that. I may have to scratch build something on the end a little bit to make it look more like the picture. But there's the pipe that would be put in the can and then attached to the machine gun for cooling. And you've got to cut it to length once you get everything in place. And I just can't see how that would work in real life. There's the little far end of the ammo belt, supposed to go on the left side of the machine gun, but there's no real way to attach it. It's supposed to go in the slot that the cartridges go through, that the ammo belt goes through, but it doesn't even come close to looking like the part in the instructions. So I may have to work on that just a little bit. But that'll complete step 39 as far as I can go right at this time. In step 40, we have two parts C4 that are not glued down. These are the swivels for the machine guns. So I'll paint these up, and we will install them at the same time that we install the machine guns and everything at the end. Okay. Step 41 shows the final placement of the machine guns in the back. You can see where the water cans are, but I don't really see any way that you can swivel the machine guns around and not move the cans at the same time, unless there's some sort of a swivel on the upper end of that pipe. I'm not real sure. If anybody knows, let me know. All right, that completes step 41. All right, everybody, that's as far as we can go with the build of the machine gun carrier. I'm going to have to fill a few seams, and I'll get everything primed, and then when we come back, it'll be time for some paint. Okay, I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Just a reminder, got plenty of these. Anybody wants one, a link to my email will be in the description. Okay, back later with some more. Okay, thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye.